And the reason for that is that right now it just hasn't fully populated.
But yeah, why was it not even allowed when you had it to even pull something?
Because you're telling it to look at this key,
Yeah.
and that key is a blank cell, so it's like, what do you want me to look at? It doesn't understand. It sees a blank cell instead of a key.
There should be.
There should be something, but this specific account didn't have any combination of those two things.
So that's interesting.
So if you were to, bump this up, 50,100, I'm sure a key would suddenly populate in.
Yeah. There were 2 blank lines.
Okay. So now, if you point at that key, you'll get a little drop down as which fields can I choose, but
you still have to do it.
But yeah, it's still an NL first because it's not part of the GL entry table.
Which else?
I was watching, I was just seeing where you were going.
You know me better than I know myself.
No. Go to a different tab. Go back. There we go.
Yeah. Filter.
So I feel good we got one thing done, basically. We didn't make it all bells and whistles, but we can do that later.
Okay.
What are
your options later and all that?
Does somebody want to drive? Or no, you're going to show us the other stuff. You're going to
I'll show you the table.
Yeah,
I'll use my computer.
You want to use mine?
I don't know your table, so I want to make sure that when I create something, it's not going to be this massive
And you're going to share all
heap of
this.
stuff.
Yeah, they're already on the
I don't.
stuff. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, usually on day 3, we end up having some report that does those date columns, so we cover that. GL, sometimes we cover, sometimes we don't, it just depends on the crowd. So, the most complex thing, the one that most people really get the most use out of is the dates in those columns, because it is very helpful. It's just, if you try to do that yourself, you'd be like, I don't understand what I'm doing. Alright. So, we'll get some-
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Alright.
Excuse me.
So again, this is another one of those things that's not in the book, but is helpful, especially if you do a lot of pivot tables. Yeah.
Something maybe Melissa wants to say.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's all relative.
She's smart.
So there's a couple different ways we can actually build a table in JET and actually build an Excel. And of course, how do we change the source on here back to HDMI?
No idea.
That looks like the right one. There we go. Okay. We can actually build an NL table with our NL function. Okay, it's one of my drop-down choices here, down here at the bottom. But if I need to link multiple tables together, if I need to select a bunch of fields, this is a far more complex way of doing it. If I just need to look at somebody's table, I'll do this from time to time and say, okay, well, give me my dimension table. And I refresh it, now I can just quickly see this. In fact, it builds an Excel table so I can go through, select, just like I would with any other table.
Aha.
Okay. The problem you're going to run into is if I were to make a pivot table referencing this, as soon as I hit refresh, the pivot table stops working. And the reason for that is, it took me forever to find this, is down here, I have a table name. I need to give this table a specific name. Whatever you want to call it. Table 1. one. Oops. Now it's called table. So now when I build my pivot table off of that, it'll say, oh, it's based off table, whatever I named it. And then you're not going to break that link. If you forget to put that table name in, it will break. That's one of the other reasons why I prefer the table builder. Oops, not browser. The table builder, it's a nice little tool. I can go through and I can add tables. So let's start with my customer table.
And we treat these just real quick, I mean, it's the same concept as a pivot, right? Okay, this is awesome.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're just going to create a table, which you would then create a pivot table off of.
So
You know,
this
this
is
is your-
more like when I was talking about how I see things in the ODBC and I connect my tables at that upper level. This is more that same kind of concept.
Kind of, yeah.
correct?
Yeah, as long as there's a connection between the tables, right? I
Right.
couldn't just connect my customer and my vendor
Right,
table.
there has to be
Yeah.
a
There has to be
unique
some sort of
value
connection.
that,
Exactly.
yeah.
And so I can keep connecting tables to tables to tables. Like if I know I need from this table to this table, I have to go through these two tables, I can certainly do that. But the order I choose my tables in is very important when I'm using the table builder. The reason for that, let's start with our customer table. And here are all the fields that are available to me in the customer table. And I even have flow fields like my balance, right? These are calculated,
Yep.
balance on date, all kinds of stuff. Okay. So if I want one of these, I can simply type in, customer number or number, name. I just go through and I start grabbing what it is I'm after. Once it's up here, I can move them around.
Yep,
I can rename them,
awesome.
whatever it is I want to do. But I say, you know what? I want to get some information about, what they bought from us. So I'm going to go ahead and add a table. I'm going to go ahead and link that to my customer ledger entry table. The nice thing is, if Nav knows the connection, Jet will build that connection. I don't have to tell it where the customer number equals number. It just automatically populates it for me. Okay. Now I can see, because I'm selected my customer ledger entry, here are the fields in my customer ledger entry. And I have some sum fields I can. So I could add in something like the sum of the sales. Oops, didn't do that. When I add from another table, it actually puts in some of the other table dash. But again, I don't want all that. I don't need to know the table. I just want the sum of sales.
Okay, go back not to the sum, but let's add another field. Will it have like an item in there? It should, right?
Here's where, yeah, so let's look at that. Let's look at document. Let's start with document. Because in the customer ledger entry, it doesn't have, we'd have to get into the line level. This is just upper level type of stuff.
Yeah.
So if I connect it to, say, like the sales line.
Right.
Okay. But let's start with document number. Let's kind of going right where I wanted to go on this. Okay. This is the reason the order that we choose these in is really important. I'm saying, okay, go out to my customer table, list out all my customers and their name and their street address, sum up all their sales, and then give me the document number. They probably have more than one document number associated with that. Okay. So we'll see what happens when we do that. I can hit OK. It's going to ask you, do you want to save this as a template? I always say yes. It's just an XML file. Save it wherever you want. So that way if you mess up, refresh, well, what I'm getting is every single customer, one record for each customer, because that's my starting table. And then when it gets to this document number, it's just picking one. They may have 20, but I'm just picking one,
Mm-hmm.
because it doesn't do that kind of grouping to expand like we would. So if I truly was after the transactional level detail, I want to start at that transactional table and then link to that more general table.
Okay.
So if we, let's say I realize I made a mistake, and this is the other reason why I recommend using the table builder. It starts doing all this extra stuff up here.
Mm-hmm.
If we look in here, if I try and teach that to people, your brains are going to explode. But let's say I figure out, I realize I'm wrong. I can go back into my table builder. I can open up that file. And it takes me right where I left off, eventually, when it opens up. So then I can add more fields, I can delete things. I can even come in through and add filters, right? Where they're, oh no. Let's try that again. Table builder. I tried to open it too many times, I
Or
got
the
mad.
sum of sales is greater than 0.
Yeah, you can come in and add filters, right? I can come in and say in my customer ledger entry, let's do my customer. So add a filter, city is equal to Amsterdam, right? And I can even make that a user defined, so when I refresh the report, it says, hey, you want to choose a different city.
Okay, so at this point,
Mm-hmm.
if I wanted my detail, all the detail, am I just moving that column or where is
If I want to
it
get
my-
all of the
where is it?
detail,
Yeah,
I have to start over. If I realize I started on the wrong table,
yeah,
I have to start over,
you have to
unfortunately.
start over.
Right, if I get through here, because I see this
So
on
there's no
our
way
message
to
boards.
rearrange those?
That's the only downside. I can't just grab this and move it on up because it's structured saying, hey, we're starting at the customer table, we're linking to that table.
Okay, so what you have to, if
So-
you made that screen bigger, I'd see the other tables there? You
Well,
only
this is,
see one table.
right, I only connected the customer to the customer ledger. If I wanted to add another table, right, my item table.
I see, gotcha.
Yep. So now my item, my item ledger entry will probably link to that. If I make a mistake, I can do that. Or if I know, hey, this is a custom table, I've created this custom link, right? Let's add a table, say my item, email item. I can create a link and say, okay, well, where the ID is equal to the applies to ID,
Yeah.
right? I'm creating that, I'm manually overwriting it and telling it. But yeah, if I wanted to start over and say, okay, well, I've got my one table here, let's create a new one. And this time I'm going to start with my customer ledger entry table. And I'm going to add the, this will have customer number, document number, and then I can link that to my customer table to get the name and the address. Right. And then I could do the sum of, at this point, if I did the sum of the sales, right, what I'd end up with is every customer number with every document associated with that customer.
Yes.
And then the same sum over and over again. So chances are on this one, I want to go back to my customer ledger entry and do the amount, flow field, amount. And then I can move these around. Even though technically I'm starting with the, move over. There you go. So now I have the customer number, the customer name, the address, the document, and the amount.
Now, when you add a table, can you choose which table you're connecting to? You're going to connect that to, or does it just
Yeah.
connect to the one below?
That's a great question. If I'm selected on the customer table and I add table, it's going to connect it to the customer table. If I'm selected on the customer ledger entry, it'll connect it to the customer ledger entry.
Okay.
So depending on which one you're clicking on to start with to add a table to. So yeah, I could, connect my customer ledger entry table to this table and this table and this table, or I can create a chain and then branch out. As long as you know those connections. So this one will be slightly different. Let's save that. Reports. The nice thing with using this, so now I have my customer, right? I can see the same customer over and over again.
And
all
see,
of
I
their
like that we
documents.
have the filtering
I mean,
right
it's,
there.
But if I wanted to, right? The nice thing too is when you build this, it assigns that name. That's what allows us to make that pivot table really easily. Take this table, summarize
And I
with a
love that
pivot
you can
table.
rename the
rename the,
the
columns,
columns.
that it applies the automatic links. Man, I mean,
Why didn't we start here?
no.
Because most places I go, they don't actually use
What
pivot
other little
tables.
tricks do you have in your bag?
Yeah. So to be honest, most of the time people aren't using pivot tables, which surprises me. I think a lot of people are intimidated by them.
Well, to me, this is so much like
Maybe it's
how
These are the reports that we
do
need.
a lot of my data dumps now through the ODBC connection.
Yeah.
It's almost just like it, other than it has a little bit more functionality to
Yeah.
it.
I almost
So-
feel like it's more user friendly too than. I mean, I'm used to the formulas. I'm good with that. But
Right.
it's a little bit even more user friendly.
It is, but there's sometimes you're not going to be able to build that report with a pivot table.
Okay, so he brings up a good question. Can we build formulas into that table?
You can. Let's go back and jet. But you're kind of limited. So let's go back to my report here.
Like, can I do a concatenate or any of those type functions?
Let's open up my,
You're really liking that word this week.
Or create a tab per plant or per.
no, you can't build
No?
in any sort of replication.
Oh.
You'd have to create a new tab and say, okay, now this table is for this one, or this one, or this one.
But we
You
could create a master table and from that a macro to
Yeah.
to break.
So let's open this
I
up.
don't think you can do the subtotals by each, by
Right,
Janice,
right, exactly.
by all these other people. You can't do all that stuff. But you could data dumps. I mean that it seems like the one-stop shop for a data dump. Like even some of the summary lists, like some of the stuff. Actually, a lot of the reports that we kind of already use.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, like,
Yeah.
for the landed cost, if I can just do some
Okay.
calculations here,
Net back
Yeah,
per land.
you got it.
you
So-
got it.
How about the
somebody-
inventory by part?
Well, inventory, you have to have a beginning balance and an ending balance, so
It should be
sometimes
there.
that gets really cumbersome to bring in all of those balances.
Well, I mean, if there are fields that are in there, if you've got a beginning balance and ending balance.
And this will
Now,
do it for you.
here's the deal, yes, I can add a formula. I've got this little